if we have a, thank you. Someone is recording us. That's very kind. Maybe.
It's me, Kabirji.
Oh, well done, well done. Are you in transit or at Tushita?
No, at Tushita.
Okay.
Rainy day here.
Good, good. So, where were we? Yeah, just as, if you're someone who likes to keep your house clean, so then you have a good torch, and then you shine your torch in a corner, you see all this dust that you neglected, and you feel very happy actually, and you start cleaning that corner of the house, of the room. So when we become Buddhas, it is said that the light of our wisdom is so powerful, so strong, we become sarvagyani, omniscient. So we can see everything. We can see all the beings that exist. So then, we know who there is to be saved. Just as in the room, we know where all this dust is hiding that we can sweep up. So it's kind of, we become all-knowing, which is in one way terrifying and in another way amazing that we could be like that. It is said this is possible as a fully awakened person. So isn't that extraordinary? Anyway, that is the aspiration of the great vehicle, Mahayana, where the mind is trained slowly, to become very vast. Right now, one's mind might be quite petty, quite, focused on just a few things, primarily on one's own, situation and making oneself happy and so forth. But with training, practice, the mind could become very, very amazing, vast, encompassing all sentient beings. So just think about that for a moment. That's a very mind-expanding statement, actually, that the Mahayana Buddhists are making. We could all become sarvagyani Buddhas, all-seeing, omniscient, fully awakened people. And it makes sense in a way. You come across a stinking pile of garbage, right? Stinking, because people have mixed, the dry and the wet waste. And it's stinking, and you don't want to get near it. But then someone tells you, because they know, that, 10, 20 feet, 30 feet under that pile of garbage is an unbelievable treasure, unbelievable jewel, which cannot be stained. It's kind of a diamond-like jewel. But you wouldn't know, would you, underneath, because the stink, the stench of the garbage is so strong, you want to faint, right? So right now, sometimes we feel we want to faint, or we feel very discouraged or ashamed or whatever about our own shortcomings, isn't it? Our bad habits, whatever, anger, our jealousy, our pride, whatever, attachment. We feel, oh, disgusting. But within all of us is that jewel of the Buddha mind, potential to wake up completely and to be of unbelievable benefit for others, because we will have so many spontaneous, skillful ways to work for others, which we don't have right now. And it will happen effortlessly at that Buddha level, effortlessly, spontaneously, just like the sun rising spontaneously every day in the east, not having to think about it. Yeah. So the bad news, if you like, is there's a lot of stinking garbage. And the good news is that actually that is just temporarily covering the tremendous wealth, jewel, which is not stained by the garbage. It's just covered temporarily. So we should really not get caught up in self-loathing, despair, or get totally stuck in depression. I shouldn't say, we shouldn't, but even if we are stuck in the deepest depression, which happens sometimes, one could remember these words, and they may help. These words from the kind teachings of Lord Buddha. And it shines through. We know certain moments or certain, deep moments of inspiration, kindness, spontaneous affection for somebody, for an animal, or we have some through poetry or literature. So we often get an insight, some kind of deep inspiration. So that makes us realize that actually we human beings are very special, very amazing. We have an extraordinary mind. So no need to give up, no need to despair. So for example, this morning, went to a local school that our institute here is running in Bodh Gaya, and it's just so wonderful to see the children, because many of them come from quite difficult circumstances, but somehow as children they still have, many of them have this spark, this openness, kind of innocence, you might say. They can smile, their eyes are still bright, they are not dimmed by exam fever, exam anxiety, which will unfortunately come when they get to class 8 and 9, poor things. But, especially the younger ones, very bright, very spontaneous, not afraid to communicate. So this gives us hope, right? That we human beings are like that, and be childlike. It's, somewhere in the Bible, it is suggested that we remember sometimes to be like children, not childish, but childlike. So that joy, that spontaneity, and being in the moment, not having too many woes, cares, anxieties. Yeah. We'll spend a few moments with whatever comes up as a result of listening to all my chatter. And then we'll spend some quiet moments together. Yes, being happy and content in the present moment with the breath, being very mindful of the breath, with a sense of relaxation. together with the stillness and the vigilant attention. Gentle awareness. In a sense of dissolving and letting go with the out breath. Okay. Get ready for the next phase of the session. I want to quote a little from the founder of Tushita Santadeli, founder of the organization, founders, Lama Yeshe. He says in one of his books that, of course, for our authentic practice, we need to develop some renunciation. Of course, very misunderstood word. It shouldn't be confused, he said, with a very fearful, rejecting kind of mind. So here, what he is saying that renunciation means that we are no longer just going to be totally relying on the pleasures of this life, worldly dharmas, not getting caught up with them totally, realizing their limitations, seeing that they're not going to bring us ultimate happiness. They will bring us some temporary titillation, some temporary pleasure, but they'll not bring us lasting satisfaction. So we shouldn't expect deep satisfaction or happiness from transitory phenomena like food and entertainment and so forth. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, all of that. For sure, they can give very sort of heightened experiences of pleasure and so forth, but how long does it last? And often, what are the after effects? So this is not; these are not things that we can rely on. So renunciation means having that mind that understands that. But the other thing he mentions, which is the main thing I want to focus on really, this is how he emphasizes this need for a relaxed state of mind, which is often very hard for us modern people. He says this, and he talks about it in the context of detachment. When I talk of being detached, he said, what I mean is to be simpler, more easygoing. Detachment doesn't mean totally renouncing everything. It means that you loosen your grip and just be more relaxed. There are a lot of pleasures available in the world, but as long as you are uptight, anxious, fearfully holding on to your money and possessions and so forth, your wealth will only make you more and more unhappy. And if you don't know how to relax and be satisfied with what you have, if you don't know how to appreciate the natural beauty of your environment, and if you do not know how to be simple, then even if you possess all the money in the world, you would still be miserable. So there are 3 points he's making here. I mean, many, but if we don't know how to relax and be satisfied with what we have, that's one. We don't know how to appreciate the natural world, natural environment, the beauty of nature and so forth. And if we don't know how to be simple, then really we are not going to be able to find happiness in anything. All the possessions in the world will not make us happy. So we're not talking here about giving up our pleasure. Buddhism doesn't say we give up pleasure, but it means that we have to understand what kind of mind are we approaching pleasure with. In the sense, the higher teachings of the of Buddhism say that we have the potential for the highest kind of pleasure, highest bliss. There's no bliss higher than, Buddhahood. So what genuine renunciation means is that we understand the not total insignificance, but the limitations of second-rate, ordinary worldly pleasure. They are second-rate in the sense they do not give anything lasting. Maybe, you could say the analogy of just a very bright lamp or light on earth compared to the light of the sun. There's no comparison. So, because he says also, Lama, that these ordinary pleasures, the problem is we grasp at them, and then that prevents us from experiencing the higher happiness of full realization, full self-realization. Our grasping, squeezing attitude, he says, is like an intoxicant that will dull the natural clarity of life. It's like if we keep on eating very, very, very tasty food, or very, we're eating too many sweets, or watching too much Netflix, or whatever we do, then the mind can become dull, will become dull. The tongue will become dull, and the mind will become dull. This is the problem. So renunciation means to realize how ordinary reliance on pleasure is preventing us from tasting a higher, more complete happiness. Anyway, this is all part of the motivation, really. It's not so much the actual topic of chapter 3 of Shantideva, but it's good background stuff. So today, for example, I'm trying to rely on a simple mug of cold water rather than some tea, with tea and sugar, white sugar, and milk powder, which is sometimes what I like to have to give me a little, little oomph, kick. But trying to rely on something simple today, and it's actually quite nice. It's fine. No big deal. So anyway, so with this renunciation, we give ourselves a break, Lama Yeshe says. A break from what? Our usual compulsive and constricting reliance on sense pleasures. It's the sense that it's compulsive and it's constricting. It kind of makes it limited. And then, of course, we fear losing it, and all of that. And it's just the anxiety and the grasping involved prevents us from relaxing and just enjoying, having a simple kind of relaxed happiness. A little bit like the difference between thinking that you're going to be happy by holding your fist very clenched, or just relaxing it. What's more, what's nicer, what feels better. Okay, so now let's look at chapter 3, which has got a lot of material. Rejoicing. Also seeing all sentient beings as guests. In the last few lines of that chapter. So full acceptance of the awakened mind. So it's like, this is something, it's like extraordinary. It's like you've been in darkness all the time. You come into a bright light, you come out into the world, you open your windows and doors, you come into the outside, you feel the sunshine. It's a shock. It's a kind of a shock. So in the same way, it's almost like a shock to our ordinary samsaric system to hear these kind of teachings that we've been hearing in the first 2 chapters about this extraordinary mind of Bodhichitta. It's like nothing we've heard of before. It seems unimaginable that we could develop such a mind of great compassion, embracing the whole world, the whole universe. I mean, it's like a shock. It's like, no, can't be. So in the, it's a little bit, I see it this way, that in this chapter, we're being encouraged and given more material that will help us to develop this kind of mind of extraordinary, great compassion, Bodhichitta. And in the first verse, he says, "Gladly do I rejoice in the virtue that relieves the misery." Oops, suddenly got to page 109 for some reason. Okay. Gladly do I rejoice in the virtue that relieves the misery of all those in unfortunate states, and that places those with suffering in happiness. So yeah, this is an extraordinary mind, this virtue that wishes to relieve the misery of everyone and place them in happiness. So we're trying to rejoice in this, thinking how wonderful this is, how extraordinary, how wonderful. It's like a sense, almost like a sense of awe, shock and awe, in a good sense. And so we're rejoicing in that. And not only that, is rejoicing in the virtue that is the cause for nirvana. Second verse, the awakening of the arhats, that's nirvana. Yeah. I rejoice in the definite freedom of embodied creatures from the miseries of cyclic existence. So we are embodied with these five aggregates, yeah, the body and mind. And this body and mind is at the moment, you could say it's motivated by delusion and karma, by this ignorance, self-grasping ignorance, attachment, anger, jealousy, pride, all of that. And all of these mistaken, unfortunate actions we engage in with our body, speech, and mind, based on these tainted, these disturbing states of mind. All of them stemming from this misunderstanding of who we are, what we are, this cognitive mistake, which leads to behavioral mistakes. If we think that we are really some very solid, kind of permanent, real me, then of course we're going to behave in a way that wants to protect me, get what I want, and we see others as either a threat to our happiness or something that I need to grasp and get into my sphere of influence to make me happy, to make me feel secure. we can see countries doing this. All the blocks that come up in the world. In the old days, it was the Eastern Bloc on the eastern side of the Iron Curtain, and on the western side, NATO and the Western Bloc. Now we don't have the Berlin Wall, but we have a lot of other garbage going on, right? We still think in terms of blocks, I, us, and them. So where does all this come from? It comes from the sense of a very powerful sense of self-identity, of me, I am me. Us, we need to be protected from that, them, the other. Or we need to get what we can from the other to make me happy and secure, and etc., etc. So anyway, we are embodied creatures, and as these samsaric embodied creatures, we have the misery of cyclic existence because we keep on creating the causes for suffering, even though we want happiness. And that is, of course, one of the major tragedies, isn't it, that Shantideva was looking at earlier. But, we want happiness and we run after the causes of suffering. It's crazy. We are, totally deluded. It's like we are, we are hallucinated. We are hallucinated. According to the teachings, we're hallucinating. We don't see reality. Okay, so Shantideva is rejoicing in the kind of energy, spiritual energy, that is going to free us from this kind of mistake, this kind of ignorance, these disturbing emotions. And what is that? The practice of morality, concentration, and wisdom, basically. Yeah? These three basic vehicle. The basic vehicle meaning that vehicle, Buddhist vehicle that leads to nirvana, freedom from suffering. Okay, so that's the second brother. And then he rejoices in the awakening of the Buddhas, full awakening of the Buddhas, right? And the also the spiritual levels of the Buddha's children, sons and daughters of the Buddha, meaning the 10 Bodhisattva levels, which means when we have this aspiration to highest enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, and when we also realize emptiness for the first time, properly, directly, then we qualify to be called an Arya being, a holy sort of person, and we are on the first level, first Bodhisattva level out of the 10 levels, the first Bhumi, the very joyous Bhumi. Anyway, there's teachings on all the Bhumis, you can read them. They all have lovely names. Up until the 10th Bhumi, it's called Cloud of Dharma. So all these wonderful names of the Bhumis representing different stages of development of the Bodhisattvas, getting closer to Buddhahood, yeah? As embodied in that mantra, Gate Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhisvaha. So getting closer to enlightenment. So here Shantideva is rejoicing in the Bodhisattva Bhumis, the levels of the Bodhisattvas, the 10 levels that the Arya Bodhisattvas have. Meaning there can still be what we call non-Arya Bodhisattvas. They have the Bodhichitta, they have this aspiration to Buddhahood, to benefit all sentient beings, very powerfully in their mind. That's their primary state of mind, you could say. But they haven't yet realized emptiness. They haven't yet realized the nature of the self, phenomena properly. So they're not yet, that skillful. They're not yet that powerful. They're also still caught up in this basic ignorance of still believing in some kind of, I, me, mine. Haven't given that up yet properly. Anyway, Shantideva is rejoicing in that. And this is a lot to rejoice in, So you're rejoicing in those who bring happiness to others. You're rejoicing in those who have attained nirvana. You're rejoicing in the Buddhas, their extraordinary activities, which are beyond the power of our thought, really, to conceive how they act. And then of the Bodhisattvas, the children, it's called, the children of the Buddha, the Bodhisattvas. So all of that we rejoice in. And it's something extraordinary if we could really get it, because, imagine the happiness, the kind of the pride and happiness of parents when their son or daughter does really well at school, or does well in an athletics on the athletics day, or performing in the school drama, and they do very well, and people appreciate how proud, how happy the parents are, how they rejoice, or if the child has a bad sickness and recovers from the sickness, then the parents rejoice. So in that way, can we rejoice in the positive actions and the accomplishments of very, very realized people, realized beings? Can we do that? It's not easy. It's not easy. We have to reflect on it. We have to reflect on what it means. It takes some meditation, doesn't it? The words are very nice, and we can resonate with them, but to really get the feel of it, we need to focus on it. So just spend a few minutes. Just find anything in your life. It doesn't have to be any of these things that Shantideva right now is talking about necessarily, but just think about something in your own life that you're really happy about, which you could rejoice in, something positive that you have done, or your friend, or something that has benefited others, right? Has been beneficial for someone. Or if it's just been beneficial for that person, someone's done something very wise and positive, it could be anything. They started a regime of proper eating, or giving up smoking or drugs or whatever. and you're happy for them. You think how wonderful it is. Or you did that for yourself and think how wonderful that is. Rejoice in that. How wonderful it is. Or if you have a good, strong Christian background, then remember how, those hymns of rejoicing, especially around Christmas, I remember. You rejoice in the birth of Christ, the Savior, the being of great compassion and so forth. You rejoice. Hymns, carols, primarily about rejoicing. So anyway, let's be quiet for a few minutes and find something to rejoice about, thinking how wonderful it is. How wonderful it is. Okay. I hope we're all able to find something to rejoice about, because there is so much to rejoice about. Of course, here we're not meaning so much, rejoicing that, the beauty in the world or the fact that, that kind of thing, but we are rejoicing in the positive actions of beings, actions that bring happiness and so forth. That's namely, of course, we can rejoice in that sense also in the beauty or nature or things like that. That's a sense of gratitude. But here rejoicing mainly means in the virtue that brings happiness. Virtue that leads to happiness, different levels. Yeah. Worldly happiness and happiness of future lives, happiness of nirvana, happiness of Buddhahood. But you see, even if you help someone old and crippled or something cross the road, that's also cause for rejoicing. You're giving them some temporary help, temporary freedom from suffering. That's also a cause for rejoicing. Although we wouldn't say that's a cause for that person to have lasting bliss or nirvana. But for the person you're helping, it's a temporary help. And if one helps that person with a very strong Bodhichitta or compassion motivation, then of course one is creating very, very powerful positive energy for oneself. Benefiting oneself more than that person. Yeah. Okay, rejoicing. With gladness I rejoice in the ocean of virtue from developing an awakening mind that wishes all beings to be happy, as well as in the deeds that bring them benefits. So he's saying, be so happy to rejoice in just the aspiration to enlighten others, to help others, as well as the actual activities of benefiting others. So, the Bodhisattva, first of all, makes the aspiration. It's like making the determination, like, okay, I'm going to go to, Bodh Gaya, so therefore I have to buy a ticket and so forth. Then the actual act of doing it. So for the Bodhisattva, they are, the person who's striving for that. They're thinking, I must become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings and so forth. And already they start engaging in practicing or at least pretending to practice, beginning to practice, you could say, the beginning levels of generosity, patience, and morality, and joyous effort, and concentration, meditation, wisdom, the 6 perfections, the 6 paramitas, actions gone beyond ordinary action, because they are suffused with this great compassion and with emptiness, understanding of reality. So we can't do all of them now, but we can begin to practice them. Here, Shantideva is rejoicing, especially in those beings who are actually being able to do it already, in the developing the mind and then engaging in the deeds. First, we wish beings to be happy, and then we engage in the actions that make them happy. So again, with the example of a mother who really loves her child, she wants the child to be happy. Then, of course, the question is how for the child to be happy. Some children, it's not so easy to make them happy, right? Whatever the mother does, the child is not satisfied. Anyway, mother becomes more and more skillful, and begins to understand her child more, and she knows how to bring happiness to her child. And so one needs both. You need the aspiration and then the action to do it, both necessary. Yeah. Then we have a very beautiful verse 5, which Geshe Dorje Dambulla uses at Tibet House when he asks people to light the lamps at the altar in Tibet House. Beautiful altar, His Holiness's picture and so forth, and all the offerings. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the lamp of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. Beautiful, beautiful translation, I think. I don't have the other text with me. I really like this translation. With folded hands, I beseech the Buddhas of all directions to shine the lamp of Dharma for all bewildered in misery's gloom. It's like how grateful we are when we're in darkness and somebody has a light or a lamp or a match, a candle. So how much more so in the gloom of samsara, gloom of misery, this pit of misery. When somebody comes and, shines this lamp of the teachings, which wakes us up to our potential and ability to develop the causes for lasting happiness. How wonderful that is, yeah. With folded hands, I beseech the conquerors who wish to pass away to remain, to please remain for countless eons, not to leave the world in darkness. It's very important, these 2 verses, because if we don't request the Buddha, Dharma, shine the lamp of Dharma, then we don't create the cause to meet the Dharma again and again in this and future life. So we have to keep on requesting. Creates the positive energy for that to keep on happening. We have to keep that positive energy going. The beings will not be, if we don't open our doors and windows, the sunshine and the wind, the fresh air will not come in. If we don't request and really wish for the Dharma, then the Dharma will not shine on us. The causes for that to happen will get exhausted. So we have to really request wholeheartedly for the Buddhas to shine the lamp of Dharma. And when we do that, it's traditional to visualize that you're offering a beautiful Dharma chakra. You may have seen Dharma chakras. I don't think I have a picture here. Right? But Dharma chakra, very beautiful with the wheel and so forth, that you offer. You sometimes see it, you'll see it in a long life ceremony that they do in the Tibetan tradition. Someone will be holding the Dhamma chakra, the wheel of Dharma, requesting the teacher to keep on teaching. So here we are requesting the Buddhas to shine the lamp of Dharma. And Buddha here can also refer to Guru, to your Guru, who is seen as a Buddha, in the aspect of Buddha. So also not only to teach, but to remain. This verse 6. Remain for countless eons. Conquerors, of course, conquerors don't really wish to pass away. Buddhas don't wish to pass away like those who have attained nirvana. The Buddhas, of course, want to remain and teach all the time, but we have to create the cause. We have to create the cause. We have to, make the effort to request and to create the causes and conditions for the teachers to teach. Teachers may be wanting to teach, but if we don't have the causes, conditions, if we don't have the facilities, if we don't create causes for it to happen, it won't happen. We're not those kind of holy beings who can hear the Sambhogakaya aspect of Buddha, the light form of the Buddha, which we can't see. We can't benefit from the teachings of the Sambhogakaya aspect of Lord Buddha. We depend on teachers, with flesh and blood bodies. And for them, we need houses and gompas and chairs and thrones and, food and drink and requests and train tickets and all the rest of it. That's what we need. It's not going to happen. We can't just sit there and receive teachings from the enjoyment body aspect of Lord Buddha, like the high bodhisattvas can. We can't do that yet. So we need to request the teachers to stay and teach. Yeah. And then verse 7, thus by the virtue collected, through all that I've done, may the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. This is the dedication. So we've completed the 7-limb prayer. Here we started with rejoicing, because we already did confession in the previous chapter, and we also did the prostration and the offering, especially confession in the previous chapter. They were the first 3 of the 7 limbs, and here we have 4. Rejoicing, requesting to teach, requesting to stay, and then dedicating. Yeah. Thus by the virtue collected, yeah, that one. Through all that I've done, may the pain of every living creature be completely cleared away. And then we have some very, very beautiful verses to inspire us to engage in this extraordinary mind. May I be the doctor and the medicine. May I be the nurse for all sick beings in the world until everyone is healed. May a rain of food and drink descend to clear away the pain of thirst and hunger. And during the eon of famine, may I myself change into food and drink. What an amazing aspiration. May I become food and drink, not just serve people food and drink. May I become food and drink for those who are starving. May I become an inexhaustible treasure for those who are poor and destitute. May I turn into all things they could need, and may these be placed close beside them. It is said that those with very high spiritual powers, Mahasiddhas, can actually transform their bodies and can manifest, you could say, miraculous items, offerings that beings can then benefit. Yeah, although much we may think that is just science fiction, this is said to be possible. Of course, Christ did something similar at the lake. Yeah, he multiplied the fish and the loaves for people to eat, and that would be considered quite normal, quite possible for a high-level bodhisattva. No problem. So anyway, we are praying to be able to do that. Without any sense of loss, I shall give up my body and enjoyments, as well as all my virtues of the past, present, and future, for the sake of benefiting all. So this is amazing. We usually want to hold on to our body for ourselves, hold on to our enjoyments for ourselves. And here we are, and hold on to our positive energy. It's like, holding on to our savings. It's hard to part with our physical money and savings, isn't it? Here we are willing to part with our positive energy of the past, present, and future to benefit others. By giving up everything, sorrow is transcended, and my mind will realize the sorrowless state. It is best that I now give everything to all beings in the same way as I shall at death. He's saying at death, I have to give up everything anyway. This body and everything is going to go to others. It's going to, be fed to the worms or to the vultures or whatever it is. So what am I? Can't take anything with me. So better I give everything. Give up everything for other beings. Let other beings, benefit from it. Having given this body up for the pleasure of all living beings, by killing, abusing, and beating it, may they always do as they please. Well, that needs a bit of interpretation, but it's the attitude that counts. It's like, I am there for others. I'm not there to dictate to others. I'm not there to use others. Let others use me. I'm there for others to use. That's the attitude. It's extraordinary. It's mind-blowing. Although they may play with my body, make it a source of jest and blame, make fun of me and blame, because I've given it up to them, what is the use of holding it dear? When we've given up something to somebody else, then we no longer cling to it, right? If you buy something for someone else, and maybe you thought originally, oh, I'd like to keep it, but then you change your mind and say, no, this would be a great gift for this and this person. And you completely mentally give it up, and you just give it, give it to that person. It's no longer yours. And, they can do what they want with it. You have given it to them, physically and mentally. So here with our body, it said we do the same. Yeah, verse 15 qualifies it a bit. Therefore, I shall let them do anything to it that does not cause them any harm. So I'm not really going to let them totally misbehave with me, because that will create negative karma for them, which will harm them. So therefore, when I say give my body to others, it doesn't mean they can do anything they want, which will harm them. But if it doesn't harm them, then they can do what they like. And if somebody does abuse me or hit me, I'm not going to bash them up in return or abuse them in return. Of course, that is that. But I'm not going to encourage them to keep on doing that, because that's not good for them. When anyone encounters me, may it never be meaningless for them. Wow, what a statement. It's like you're walking down the street and you're not just doing it in a totally neutral way. You've made that prayer in the morning or wherever, or constantly you're remembering, may people just by looking at me, may it be beneficial for them. May there be some benefit for them. What benefit? Anything which will benefit them. Short term, long term. Even if they look at me with anger, I must remember to do this tomorrow, because there are thousands of people in Bodh Gaya at the moment. And some of them look at me with very mistrustful eyes. Who the hell is this? A shaved head and this tall, skinny foreigner, they think. So what's going on? And I have to remember that whatever they are thinking, however they're looking at me, may it be beneficial for them. Just by looking at me and thinking, what a strange person, whatever, may it be beneficial for them. This is how we're supposed to think. If in those who encounter me, a faithful or an angry thought arises, may that eternally become the source for fulfilling all their wishes. Oh, amazing, amazing. Right. So, may it bring them everything they need to be happy. May all those who say bad things to me, cause me any other harm, All those who mock and insult me, may they have the fortune to fully awaken to Buddhahood. Wow. May I be have one, a guide for all travelers on the way. May I be a bridge, a boat, and a ship for all who wish to cross the water. Wow. Wow. Isn't it great to be guided sometimes? You're in a foreign city or land and someone tells you the way, or you find somebody who speaks your language, or at least understands what you're saying, and they give you some guidance. How grateful you are, how relieved you are. So we're praying to be like that for others who are caught in the labyrinth, in the very destructive labyrinth of samsara. It's like a maze, like a web, like a net. People, get stuck. We're helping them. So may we be a guide for others in that way. May we become like a bridge or a boat or a ship, whatever people need. May we be like that. May I be an island for those who seek one, a lamp for those who desire light, a bed for all who wish to rest, and a slave for all who want a slave. In one text, I had a friend, very good friend. He's now a monk who become a geshe, Westerner, Englishman. He's now teaching at Nalanda, sometimes at Nalanda Monastery in France. There's a lot of meditation and practice. He had stuck on his wall when he was a student at Dharamsala, MacLeodganj, he was studying there. And he had stuck on his wall a quotation, Bodhisattva is the unpaid slave of the world. It's from one of the texts. Bodhisattva, the unpaid slave of the world. So that's what we are aspiring to be. So, better watch out. It's not very well paid, and you're willing to be a slave. So are we ready for this? May I be a wishing jewel, a magic vase? And there would be descriptions of these in the treatises. What actually are the powers of a magic vase or wishing jewel, They would be pretty amazing. Powerful mantras, great medicine. May I become a wish-fulfilling tree and a cow of plenty for the world. Cow, because cow is sacred to Indian culture. So that's why a cow of plenty. In another country, it might be something else. In South America, it would be a llama of plenty, or North America, a bison of plenty, or a pig of plenty. Even if there's a culture that depends a lot on pigs, then it would be a pig of plenty. But here we have cow of plenty, because it's holy in the Indian tradition. Very holy animal. Yeah. Okay. And then not only that, we're not finished yet. Sorry, I keep on losing the place. That's why I like books better than screens like this. Easily lose the place. Well, I do anyway. Mid-20th century people lose their place. Okay. So next verse is verse 21. Okay, not just a cow of plenty for the world, but just like space and the great elements such as earth, yeah? So earth, water, fire, air, space, all of them, like that. May I always support the life of all the boundless creatures. Goodness me. So you're willing to be anything that others need. Anything, absolutely anything, including the elements. Isn't that extraordinary? That is just amazing. That is just unbelievable. Until they pass away from pain, may I also be the source of life for all the realms of varied beings that reach unto the ends of space. All the beings, even the most hideous, that we would get sick, we would vomit just looking at them. Some of the pretas or other beings from other realms that we can't see right now. And sometimes we even feel very bad looking at certain kinds of humans, don't we? They're very grotesque or have some disease or some terrible. I remember once going to a place for severely disabled people, not far from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And yeah, some of those poor beings, it's just almost impossible to look at them. So distorted features. So, however distorted or horrible looking any kind of being might be, it's saying, I want to be the source of life for them. I want to help them pass away from pain. Any being. And there's some very, very extraordinary, not very nice looking beings in some of the realms. Due to the fruition of their karma, they have very disturbing forms, which would make us disgusted or very, very frightened. Yeah. Yeah, horn of plenty in Greek mythology. Thank you, Father. Yeah, there's all these in myth, different lamb, tree, horn of plenty, many things. Yeah, so the Bodhisattva is praying for all, it's going to help all these beings. Good grief. Now I'm on page 93. Yeah. Really, these. The mercy of this technology. Yeah. Just then he says, verse 23, just as the previous Buddhas, Sugatas, gave birth to an awakening mind, just as they successively dwelt in the Bodhisattva practices, likewise for the sake of all that lives, do I give birth to an awakening mind, and likewise shall I too successively follow the practices. So this is actually taking the Bodhisattva vow. One simple way of doing it. Promising that just like previous Buddhas gave birth, to this awakening mind, in order to become Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and then Buddhas. So I'm going to do it just like that. And follow the trainings just like they followed the trainings. And do it in the right order, just like they did. Successively follow the practices. In order to further increase that mind from now on, those with discernment who have lucidly, clearly seized an awakening mind this way should highly praise it in the following manner. Then we should praise this mind in order to increase it. How? By saying, today my life has borne fruit. Having well obtained this human existence, I've been born in the family of Buddha. Now I'm one of Buddha's children. In another place, Shantideva mentions, what's the purpose of life? If all it has done is bring pain to my mother, when she gave birth to me. Meaning, if I've wasted my life, then what has its purpose been? There's been no purpose. I gave birth, when my mother gave birth to me, it caused her pain. Is that the main purpose of my life, just to give pain to my mother and to other people, Just to care for myself? So here he's saying my life has become fruitful because, I've developed Bodhichitta. I've dedicated myself to others. So now my life has become meaningful. Before it was, it was giving pain to other people. And now it's giving happiness, and highest happiness of Buddhahood, even for others. Because when I become Buddha, then I can help others become Buddha. I know the way. I know the path. So thus, whatever actions I do from now on must be in accordance with this family of great beings, Bodhisattvas. Never shall I disgrace it, pollute it, this noble and unpolluted race, unsullied race. So he's saying up to now, this race, meaning this family of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas is, untainted. We have to join that and keep it pure, I'm not going to disgrace it. even when people join a club or an army or group, or people working towards some common purpose, then they there is a code of honor, there's code of loyalty to that group. So also we have to then be loyal to that group. And chapter 4 also goes into that a lot, about the terrible consequences of not behaving properly, having taken the Bodhisattva vow and then not behaving properly, not helping others properly, the very negative consequences of that. Just like a blind person discovering a jewel in a heap of rubbish, likewise, by some coincidence, an awakening mind has been born within me. Yeah, so that very powerful example of a jewel in a heap of rubbish. Coincidence, of course, not just a coincidence, but it's just a way of speaking that how wonderful it is. It's amazing. It's like a magical event. If this mind is born in me, it's like a magical event happening, that this awakening mind, the mind of Bodhichitta, aspiration to highest enlightenment in order to benefit all sentient beings. Wow, amazing, amazing. It's the supreme medicine. Sorry, it's the supreme ambrosia. Ambrosia, like nectar. Don't know if you had this in Mumbai in the past or in parts of India. We used to have ambrosia rice in a tin in England. It was basically, chawal ka kheer, ambrosia rice. Anyway, it's the supreme ambrosia that overcomes the sovereignty of death, the inexhaustible treasure that eliminates all poverty in the world. So overcomes the sovereignty of death. Up to now, we have ordinary death. So it's very powerful and very disturbing, ordinary death. It's like a king over us. But when we develop this kind of mind, death is no longer a problem. Death just takes us closer and closer to Buddhahood, and also helps us, of course, help other people have good deaths and get closer and closer to Bodhisattvahood and Buddhahood. So death like now is like a sovereign, like a king. And of course, we're all going to die, but here is referring to the sort of unpleasant, negative connotation of death. When a bodhisattva dies, it's just a cause for, in a sense, rejoicing for the bodhisattva, because they just go on to, with a new body, into more beneficial work for others, you see. And, which is what many of our great teachers are, right? They are bodhisattvas. They came to the end of their last lives, old and maybe a bit sick, some not able to do much with their bodies like they could before, and then they come back in a new body, younger body, youthful body. So it eliminates all poverty in the world, spiritual poverty, but it has the potential to also eliminate all physical poverty, because if beings were to properly practice generosity, then it would create the cause for wealth, for contentment. It's because we've created negative karma in the past, including stealing and jealousy and envy, that we don't have as much as we need. Many, of course, don't have nearly as much as they need and are very poor. This is the result of karma. It's not, if we blame governments, corporations, and industrialization, yeah, that's a trigger, but it's not the deeper cause of poverty, because there's corporations, there's governments, there's industrialization, but there's also many people like you and me who have enough to eat, and there's many rich people. Why are there poor people? Karma. So we have to help people to create good karma. And so for us, it will create, of course, the highest happiness, and we have to help others create the causes for highest happiness, which includes practice of generosity and other virtues, which will bring about wealth, which will mean that person will never have to experience any genuine poverty in the future. So, and of course, spiritual wealth as well, obviously, to be free of spiritual poverty. It is the universal, it's the supreme medicine that gets rid of the world's disease. It is the tree that shelters all beings, wandering and tired on the path of conditioned existence. Another wonderful image of a tree, which of course in the Northern Hemisphere, maybe, of course with global warming, people will appreciate this more. But in India, we've always appreciated good shade trees, especially in the hot weather. In the hot summer in India, where it goes to 45, 46, even 50 or more, then we appreciate these shade trees, So here, of course, it's talking about a tree that is sheltering beings who are very tired and, fed up and miserable on this constant wheel of cyclic existence, A path of cyclic existence has been going on. Yeah, since beginningless lifetime. Beginningless life. So Bodhichitta is it's like a tree. That kind of mind is like a tree that shelters everyone. As we know, Bodhi trees, banyan trees, neem trees, these trees in India shelter countless beings, small and large, from tiny insects to, monkeys and other beings, and shelters people, gives twigs to brush the teeth instead of toothpaste. Traditional Indian people use a twig, and so many things these trees give, for us: shade, medicines. So many medicines are made from the neem tree, which the Americans tried to patent. So we have the neem tree, we make toothpaste from that. We make all kinds of medicines from that, neem tree. And of course, Bodhi tree, the Buddha sat on the Bodhi tree. That also has many medicinal and spiritual purposes. So we pray to become like a tree, We will become like a great tree for others. It's the universal bridge that leads to freedom from unhappy states of mind. It's the dawning moon of the mind. Wow, the dawning moon of the mind that dispels the torture, the torment of the disturbing emotions, disturbing conceptions, ignorance, anger, attachment, etc. It's a universal bridge, a bridge from this unhappy, painful life to everlasting happiness of Buddhahood. That's what he's saying. Yeah. Then it's the great sun, S-U-N, that finally removes the misty ignorance of the world. It's the quintessential butter from the churning of the milk of dharma. So it's like a great sun that dispels any early morning mist, which is, ignorance is like that mist. It clouds the mind. We don't see clearly anything. We are caught up in our prejudices and fears and hopes and just wrong conceptions. So it's like a sun that removes that. And it's like real butter. We make butter from churning milk. Yeah? So the essence of the dharma, it's being said, is actually this Bodhichitta, because it leads to Buddhahood, which is the most exalted state, the most benefit for others. For all those, then we have the wonderful verses from which I've mentioned in the posting. For all those guests traveling on the path of conditioned existence who wish to experience the bounties of happiness, this will satisfy them with joy and actually place them in supreme bliss. So today, in the presence of all the protector Buddhas, I invite the world to be guests at a festival of temporary and ultimate delight. And he requests all the gods, anti-gods, everyone to be joyful, not to be jealous, but to be joyful, to rejoice in this. So guest is mentioned many times. I find this very powerful, very moving. image of the guest. All of us have had a chance to be, I hope, in our life, treated as an honorary, as a very welcome guest who's then very well taken care of, fed and watered, and maybe given a place to sleep and so forth. And Shantideva was saying we should regard everyone like this. Everyone is like our guest. You see, for our guest, we have to actually make quite a lot of effort, especially if our habitation is quite dirty, if our house is dirty and hasn't been looked after properly, and we respect our guests, then we're going to make sure our house is cleaned up and nice and smells good, and all the dirty corners are cleaned and all the mess is cleaned up. The dirty dishes in the kitchen are washed so that everything is kind of neat and clean, nice, and maybe some flowers even, whatever. We make it look nice for our guest. Guest is very special. And then the guest comes and we take care of the guest. And it's a sad event as well as there's some sadness as well as joy, because we know a guest is a guest. Guest is going to leave, right? So this brings us back again to that solitude and loneliness theme we've been looking at. Your guest comes and you're very happy, but then your guest leaves. Yeah. So there's love affair and loneliness. You take care of your guest, you love your guest, you take care of your guest, then your guest leaves. Yeah. And then you're left alone. But you're really happy that you could, serve your guest very well. Take care of your guest, feed them, give them what they needed to be happy. So Shantideva is saying all sentient beings are our guests, not just one or two people that we are very attached to or love very much. Everyone. I invite the world to be guests at a festival of temporary and ultimate delight. Ultimate delight. We can only give temporary delight to our guests now, right? Nice music, food, incense. We might even wash their feet when they come in, if they're traditional, but we can't give them ultimate delight yet. Ultimate. He says, festival of temporary, ultimate. What is ultimate delight? Benefit of delight of Buddhahood, delight of, at the very least, nirvana, but hopefully more, Buddhahood or Bodhisattvahood. Help these beings to become bodhisattvas in their own right and go towards Buddhahood. That's what we'd be aiming for. And so may everybody rejoice at that. May nobody feel jealous about this. May everybody feel happy about this. This is the last line of chapter 3. So wow, we completed a chapter today. So let's have some discussion now. It's an extraordinary chapter. Let's take a minute break if you don't mind. Just a minute break. Yeah. Make sure you didn't leave the water on or the milk boiling, all those dreadful things that happen sometimes. Once left the milk boiling for so long and the saucepan was pretty unrecognizable. It's kind of nightmares, scenarios. Anyway, take a break. Okay. Right. Would anybody like to offer any comment? Okay, Nitya, you have to leave. Thank you for joining. Haji. And nice to see our friends from Turkey also. Friends from Turkey, very kind. Nice to be connected to other countries. Haji, anybody? What we have in the chat? Yeah. What slave of the world? A slave of the world, the whole world. Yeah. Bodhisattva is a slave of the world, willing to serve others. Unpaid slave, yes. Yeah, not a paid slave. No pay. Food, don't know. No pay. I don't know. Yeah, nobody? All exhausted with all this goodness? It's possible. Good food makes one satiated and tired. So this Shantideva has given us so much in this short chapter of
May
34
I
verses.
say something? I don't know where to.
Who are you,
Hello?
sir? Are you a gentleman from Mumbai?
Yes,
I think we
sir.
can allow. What do you think, Elaine? Should we allow this bearded person to say something? I think so.
So I
please.
was just
Go
wondering
ahead.
with the thing of offering oneself as food and all that. Suddenly I had this thing about what is the Bodhichitta, the Buddha's way of thinking about organ donation, and where does that fit in? I don't know where that popped into my mind. It sort of played around while I was listening to you.
It's wonderful, but again, the skillful means, if we're ready for that kind of thing. You see, it's tricky. It's said that sometimes, as you know, the consciousness doesn't just leave the body immediately at death, the subtle consciousness. So if the subtle consciousness is there while they are beginning to carve up your body and take out your organs, and you're not yet a great bodhisattva, you may be rather disturbed by what they're doing to your body because you're still aware of it. You wouldn't have physical pain, but you might have a lot of mental pain seeing them cutting up your body and giving your donation, your heart and your liver away, and you think, what the hell's going on, Because you're not ready for that. Mentally, intellectually, you thought, yeah, it'd be nice to donate my body. Not just intellectually, you may, with a lot of compassion, have said that. But if we're not ready for those consequences that may be there, I'm not saying they would be. Sometimes the consciousness leaves the body very quickly. So then, okay. Although it is said that even if the consciousness leaves the body, it's still has a lot of connection with the worldly body and people it's left behind for up to 2 weeks, the intermediate state consciousness, the Bardo being. So, it might be disturbing for that being to, or even create anger or anguish to see one's body being chopped up, and put into other people. So, but of course, the aspiration to do that, you could say, is wonderful. To whatever is mine, may others body. But
exactly, because it's of no use to us anymore. So rather than people doing without and a need for it, it makes a lot. I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me to sign up for organ donation. And I was just wondering what the Bodhichitta take on it would be, because one does know that the soul is still hovering around, whatever the consciousness is still around there. So I just was trying to fix that somewhere.
Yeah, the aspiration is wonderful. And if one were very, like a yogi, it would be a wonderful thing to do because it wouldn't cause any mental disturbance. You'd only be happy.
It's like someone's using your your shell, or whatever your thing is.
You might even be disturbed if we're not very realized. We'd be disturbed by the body being cut up, by that visual of that.
No,
awareness of that.
Not disturbed. Ready for that.
It wouldn't be causing, I think, physical pain, but maybe a lot of mental pain for an unrealized person who, with the best of intentions.
So then, like in the Satipatthana, they say a lot of things about like going into the body, and like I think we somewhere today also you read about not being averse to even I forgot the words because I was
Yeah, any
commuting,
kind of
but to
being.
the ugly things.
Yeah.
To the ugly things and seeing things that you have no aversion to that. So if you work on that, I guess it should gel, no?
Yeah. If one's really worked on that, yeah. And one doesn't have aversion, and one has given up self-grasping to some extent. So there is a real wish to give, and you don't feel anymore that is my heart, my kidney they're giving away. There's no clinging to it. But that would be, I think, quite a high realization. That would be not easy to develop that. Of course, if for whatever reason the consciousness is kind of, more free and less attached to the body, then one wouldn't feel that way. I think it's a moot point. You should ask, maybe we should ask some more realized person who knows more about this, how it would be. Because,
interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
How's mother?
Okay, she was, in fact, I stuck my earphones into her for a bit to make her rejoice about things rather than feel. So she listened to bits of your session today too. Yeah.
Socialism.
So she listens to a bit of your session.
Socialism.
Well, that's a good idea. Maybe tonight I'll put her sleep with some socialist talks.
Play some Marx and Lenin or something.
Yeah.
Communist manifesto. Yeah.
Some
purpose of the world unite. We have nothing to lose but our change.
Yeah. She'll definitely sleep well, I hope.
Okay, enough of this frivolity. Some people are looking appropriately serious. So any serious interventions? Not that ours was totally non-serious. It was very good, actually. Anything, Ashwin, Vishad, Ayesha?
Is that the same Ashwin who had lots of hair yesterday or the day before?
Hair? Did you say?
Wasn't there
it's me. I cut my hair
long-haired ponytail person? Wow, I've got still my...
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, you look like...
Cool on you, lighten up. Yeah.
Yeah, you're in West Point or something. You joined the army? All these poor people who are being asked to join the army in Russia, I reckon 300,000 people are eligible to be called up to fight something they don't want to fight in. Maybe some do, but many don't. It's very sad what's happening there. And very dangerous, isn't it? Very dangerous what's happening in Ukraine. Because of the kind of weapons both sides have. Anyway, let's not think about that too much. Anything regarding this last chapter? Rejoicing? I hope you all found something to rejoice about in one's own life, of course, in the lives of others. I guess it's your supper time. We eat early here, so that's finished. But for you, some of you have to cook and eat, or warm up.
Oops. Doorbell.
What's that? Sujitji, anything? Dehradun?
No, Kabir. I'm just thinking about the kind of commitment that this particular chapter envisages. So,
Yeah, pretty scary. Huh?
Yes, very.
Makes you want to go and have a cold beer or something, or whatever. Yeah, it's but it's also inspiring because it seems that there are many beings who do achieve this, and we can see it in our teachers, some of our teachers. I like that, actually. Yeah. Non-stop working for others. Extraordinary. That's what I've witnessed in some of my teachers. Yeah. Yep. Okay then. You just said my internet connection is unstable, but it's been pretty good. It's pretty amazing what I can do with a mobile phone. I'm not using Wi-Fi. This is called portable hotspot. So maybe Bodhisattva manifests as a portable hotspot. Amazing. Some genius invented all this anyway. It couldn't have been ordinary people, I don't think, who generate all these things. But who knows? Anything? Or we're not going to stop? Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. We dedicate the merits, please, for all beings to be well and happy, and all of the aspirations made in this chapter, may they happen. May we be like a protector for others, a guide, a bridge, whatever others need, like become like space, the other elements to support beings, fire when they're cold, water when they're thirsty, earth when they need support, air when they need space and when they need oxygen. So may we be all these things for others. Or maybe at least be able to, if we can't transform our bodies into it, may we be people who can quickly access these things for others, have the karma to be able to benefit people with food and drink and all these things. Some people are like that. They quickly are able to generate a lot of resources for others and provide it to others. So may we be like that. And may we provide also the greatest resource, also, which is resource of the dharma, help guide people with dharma. We dedicate for that, and for us to be, our life to be meaningful for others, like the verses said. Whoever is doing whatever they are to us, may it never create harm for them, may it never be meaningless for them, may it bring great benefit to them. Those of us who are in education, may work with young people, be most successful. May we help instill in their minds great inspiration, love, compassion, creative, critical thinking, and so forth. And a deep desire to benefit others. May that be awakened. May they be warriors for the benefit of others. And may all the holy gurus have long and healthy lives. May we never be separated from authentic dharma and teachers. Okay, thank you all very much for your for joining. Please have a good evening.
Thank you, Kabirji.
Thank you.
Might see some of you on Sunday. I'm not sure what will happen Sunday morning, but we may have a session Sunday morning. We'll give the posting the day before. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Kabirji.
Thank you, Kabir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.